This message is to all of my foundational Black Americans, my Black Americans. I have some bad news for you. You have ties to Africa. Um, Here's the thing. I get so annoyed because on the internet we go from one extreme to the next. I'm not saying that I have not indulged in this because I have, but even then, I understand that there's a time, there's a place, like maybe, we should roll it back. I apologize. Let's move on. Let's try to find some understanding or have at least an attempt of nuance. My biggest issue that I'm seeing right now from the foundational Black Americans is that they're saying that we are actually Native American. My thing is, I haven't seen any conversations between foundational Black Americans and Native Americans. Where is it? I'm actually looking for a conversation. I'm actually looking for people who are going out of their way to talk to the indigenous people of America, right? The native people of America who are still here. Because there's nothing, no exchange of culture, no exchange of conversation that's actually happening. Because I do know that there are Black indigenous people of America. I do know that there's a whole history of that, and I do know that there are Black people who have indigenous ancestry. I'm being one of them. However, at the end of the day, that does not mean that you also do not have African ancestry. I think we get so caught up and we get so mad at Africans, and rightfully so, because there are certain things that hurt Black Americans or make them upset because when you see people mimicking your culture, but then at the same time saying you don't have culture, and then at the same time trying to take credit of your culture, then at the same time trying to rewrite your history, and then at the same, like, it's just so many, it's a multifaceted kind of, people trying to fuck you over. It's a multifaceted kind of fuck you. And so when we really get down to the nitty gritty, right, a lot of that opens up for us to be xenophobic. It opens up for us not to have any kind of engage in conversations about each other's culture, right? To try to really understand each other as much as we say we do, as much as the Pan-Africanists, say we need to understand each other. I just find it annoying because, again, as much as I understand that, it's like you can't just go around and then wake up and say we not African no more. Like, I'm sorry, friend, but 100+ years ago we were from Africa. Yes. Yes. Now we can get mad at the Africans, say they sold us. Then somebody else say, well, not all of them sold you. Then somebody else said, well, yes, the conversations will go on and on. They sold, but they didn't really sell. But then it's different, and y'all trying to lump our Africans together, and not everybody African. And if you go, it's the whole thing. But at the end of the day, what remains true is that a lot of Black Americans, if not most, have African ancestry in them, right? If we really want to go all the way back and say that we have a percentage of this in our DNA, it has to be enough percentage within your DNA, within your ancestry, for it to be something to acknowledge, I feel like. Like, if the indigenous percentage is less than the percentage of white European ancestry within your, within your ancestry chart, like, is that something that you should acknowledge as a real thing? And I oftentimes feel that when I see a lot of these Black Americans get on here and they say this, and the Foundation of Black Americans specifically, and they say this, it's like it often makes a mockery of the movement, because I do believe in the movement. I do believe in what it stands for. I do believe in what it is trying to represent and what it's trying to do to solidify a culture for Black people in America. But I do not like this trivialization of African roots. It doesn't do anything in the grand scheme of things. You can critique Africans. You can critique the xenophobia of all. You can critique the fact that they don't respect our culture. We can do this all day. But at the end of the day, trying to erase that history does nothing for the foundational Black American community, does nothing for the Black American community. It does nothing. It just further solidifies this belief that we are just emotional beings that do not have any type of understanding of who we are. And it's like, no, you could sit there and say, yes, I have history to Africa, but at the end of the day, I have my own unique culture as a Black person in America. It's that simple. Until we find a better way of communicating with the indigenous people about their history, right? Going around sitting there saying, well, I looked on this site and I talked to a couple of people. I was drunk one day at the cookout and I talked to some of my cousins, and my auntie said, oh, yeah, so-and-so on your daddy's side was actually, Indian back in the day. It's like, girl, that's not, okay. Let's do better. Some of these ancestry tests aren't even accurate. So we need to do better in terms of how we identify the actual culture and history, right? But anyway, that's all I wanted to say.